Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm always excited to come here. Even for the long plane ride, I always enjoy it. That's the time I catch up with my reading. In one of those long plane rides, I read a very interesting book that makes a very fascinating observation. It says that there are three most important choices individuals can make. What we do, where do we do it, where we live, and who do we do it with, our marriage. And he said that these are three most important choices. However, those choices are only available to some people recently, only very recently in the history of human beings. We used to do what our parents do. We live where our parents live, and we marry those that are near to us. These three choices that individual can make now, actually, when I reflect on organization, are also have these three choices only available to them very recently. In manufacturing, you can see the company in the last 30 years start to make choices on what they do, what they focus on, and what they don't do. And where they do it with. Now, in manufacturing, you can see that a lot of global people can do manufacturing anywhere in the world where that makes most sense. And the partner they do it with. Today, when we talk about healthcare, it's one of the prime examples of knowledge work. In knowledge and services, which consume about 70% of our economy, that choice is only available now, at the beginning, that for us, that we are all embarking in that journey, only very recently in the last few years. Before I get on to talk about today, when we look at the global sourcing for IT, which is a prime example of knowledge and service work, how can we get most value out of that choice? So that's the topic of today. And before I talk about the detail of that, just a few words about GlaxoSmith. We are a pharmaceutical company, which is not a small company, over $40-something billion in sales, which is only a small part of the healthcare cost that just was mentioned. And you look at the R&D, pharmaceutical is a very R&D intensive organization. We spend about 16 million every day in R&D. And in IT, you can see that in pharmaceutical, it's mostly about knowledge and mostly enabled by information. IT plays a critical role in the organization. Although we spend in IT about 2.7% of our revenue, about translating to 1.2 billion. And for us, we have started our offshoring in the last few years. Today, all the offshoring together, we have about 1,300 people and another 1,000 people on other kind of outsourcing, not particularly in offshoring. You talk about level of benefit we get from global sourcing. I'm sure a lot of you either provide the services or a customer of the services. Let me get a survey here that what level of net saving after governance, after overhead you get. Can I get a show of hand? 0 to 10%. If you are a provider, just represent your customers. And don't inflate that. 0 to 10%, 10 to 20%, raise your hand. 20 to 30%, raise your hand. And 30 to 40%, good. 40 to 50%, those choose that, put your right leg above your head. I think that's how hard it is to get 40 to 50%. And I think if you talk about net saving, 40 to 50% will be very difficult to get through mostly labor arbitrage. But if you approach the benefit through holistically how you approach IT applications and focus on several dimensions. One is the standardization and consolidation, how you improve the underlying application development and support process, we call the application lifecycle processes. And on the top of that, labor arbitrage. And then you can at least triple the value that we traditionally get. And I give you a quick example that we did last 2 years on level 1 incident management, or you can call it more loosely help desk. And we started in that, we have 8 help desks at the beginning. And we started consolidation and standardization, and reduced the cost from 9 million to about 5 million. So a big reduction before we offshore. And then when we do the nearshoring, offshoring, then the 5 million come down to 3.5 million. And then we add users to that consolidated platform. We add to 85,000 from the 55,000. And the cost comes down to 3.4 million of that. And if you look at that improvement in terms of cost, and on the top of it, we also improve the service, which you can measure by incident resolution cycle time that reduced over 40%. And the client satisfaction went up from 70-something% to over 90%. So in that value creation, in that process, you take full advantage of the consolidation and standardization, and then offshoring, global sourcing, and also the process improvement. And in that case, one of the big value we get is from improve the problem management processes, so that we have so that we can reduce the incident that we need to tackle, and therefore translate to lower cost and higher performance. And if we step back, there are lots of opportunity like that in the application lifecycle space. And holistically, what GSK IT is trying to do with our partner is tackling through 3 angles. One is establish and optimize a set of global services, shared services, and eliminate duplications. That's one dimension. That's the what part. And the second part is the how we improve, optimize a set of application lifecycle processes. The last example being incident management. And then we use global sourcing to enable the first 2. And of course, the sweet spot is the intersection of the 3. If we tackle all 3 together, then we get tremendous value out of that. And another thing that we discover is that although we have a lot of applications, but only 10% of our portfolio can account for most of what we care in terms of cost, in terms of value, in terms of user experience, and in terms of our load in network load. So there, just a very small portfolio, and here the 5 categories of the applications that account for most of what we need to care. And I won't go through the list. The key message is that in support, a lot of the cost is driven by defects. And we know that in many industries, including IT, is that defect that costs X. If we don't detect it and fix it, the cost of repairing those defects in production is much higher, about 500 times higher. And actually, the cost of defect, not the cost of repairing it, is even higher.